recognitions. I'd like to begin with recognizing Volunteer High School Navy Junior ROTC team this evening, and I don't see Major Stephen Bickford or Chief Norman Greer, but if they do walk in, I'd gladly turn over the podium to them. But the first item is recognizing the rifle team there at Volunteer, and I'd like to read an article, if it pleases the board, recognizing them that was sent to the local media. The 2019 U.S. Army Junior Rifle National Championships came to an end on Saturday, 26th of January. For 3 days, more than 150 of the top junior marksmen from across the U.S. competed in 3 position small bore, sporter, and precision air rifle matches. Volunteer NJROTC rifle team led the way once again in the 2019 National Air Rifle Championships. This is a back-to-back win for Volunteer, having also won the national championship in 2018. This is the 4th national title for the team, having won the Army National Air Rifle Championship in 2016, 2018, and again in 2019. And the NRA National 60-shot standing competition last summer in Bloomington, Illinois. In addition to the team championship, 2 of Volunteer's marksmen were also recognized for placing in the top 3rd overall. Taking the podium for 2nd place was team captain Jaden Ann Fraser, and with first-year marksman Olivia Cottrell placing 3rd. The team did very, very well, as I mentioned in this article, and we are very, very proud of them. If you don't mind, let's recognize them at this point for the rifle team's efforts this year at the 2018 championships. And if it pleases the board, the second item is an inspection report of the same team. And as you can imagine, a team that does that well in championships is very, very well prepared day to day. And overall, school system support, program support was outstanding there at Volunteer. Administration of the program, outstanding. And I should say that the categories are outstanding, above average, average, below average, and unsatisfactory. Academic program, outstanding. Reports and records, outstanding. Cadet performance, they slipped a little, it was average, but come on, they did very, very well. Student mentoring was average, and overall, outstanding. So congratulations once again to the program there at Volunteer, and much, much kudos to the 2 that lead that, and to the cadets themselves. Congratulations.
At this time, we'll recognize delegates from the Hawkins County Education Association, if there are any. Seeing none. Education Committee of the Hawkins County Commission, or just the Hawkins County Commission. I see some representatives. Any comments you want to make? Anything?
Just thank you all for the fine job you do.
All right. Thank you all for your support. Moving along, under reports, I'll recognize Director Hickson again. I think he's going to call Mr. Benavides, our Transportation Director.
Thank you, Mr. Larkin. We had a transportation committee meeting several weeks ago. Chris led that with us, and we had a little bit of homework. Roy was to survey the residents in the trailer park that we were deciding on a route, possible addition of a route, and he does have some information to share this evening. He is here, yes. So he will come up at this point.
Good afternoon. Basically, tried to get all the information that we could from people in the Mark Lane trailer park that had children that did ride the buses and stuff like that. We've got a total of 12 kids that I was able to touch base with their parents. There was a couple of kids that I couldn't get. There was 2 of them that their numbers were not either active or anything that I could leave a voicemail with that didn't get back to me. But we were able to get a hold of 10 of them that were not aware that they were even trying to look into moving the pickup and the drop-off location from Carter's Valley into Martin Lane. It was a total of 5 of the parents of 10 kids, and two of them that were aware that they were trying to inquire about moving it into Martin Lane. Even the ones that were aware of it, the issues that they had with the current stop wasn't really, as far as how I guess we would say it, it wasn't, they had, I guess, a little bit more of an issue with the walk more than the stop itself. And they even mentioned the fact of Martin Lane, the fact that it's a hill coming down, that it would maybe even need a speed bump to be put inside of it to kind of keep people from driving down that hill a little bit fast. So a little more of the issue was with the actual walk back and forth more than the pickup itself. And other than that, I mean, I don't know of anything else for what was going on in that.
So the resolution to the survey was to leave it where it's at, or what was the resolution?
Well, the resolution was just to get the information first to look at,
Okay.
and it was 80% of them didn't really realize that we were even trying to do it. They were very pleased with where it was at. A couple of them said it was, they never had to worry about it. There was always parents there. They was very like the way it was currently.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions of Mr. Davies?
There were,
that?
yes, thank you. There were several things that we were tasked with homework-wise for bringing back in April, and one of the items was this survey, hopefully bring back here to the board in March here. So unfortunately, like Roy said, couldn't get a hold of two parents, but what he didn't admit to, and this is kudos to Mr. Benavides, is he went over there personally and conducted the survey, and even those that weren't home, he couldn't find contact info or couldn't leave them messages, so he is going to try to follow up with those two. But it was a little bit surprising to us that the parents were unaware that was largely, that there was even efforts to bring the drop-off closer to, and of those that were aware, like he said, they didn't know the reason why that was being done. So I think we found out some information that hopefully is helpful to the committee to take back and make some decisions or recommendations.
And we'll be setting a date for that shortly.
You're not ready for a recommendation from the committee yet?
No,
Okay. So,
well, the committee needs to meet and give a recommendation to the board.
gotcha.
And there's some salary survey information that I'm going to be gathering with Roy's support, and also some tenure and years of service accreditation and recommendation material that I'll bring back as well to the committee.
Yeah.
Do you all have a date on that next meeting? If
No,
they said that?
it'll be in April at some point.
I think Jennifer's earmarked some dates, but they haven't nailed anything down.
Yeah, she provided me some dates. It's a possibility that at the end of the meeting, we'll just go ahead and do that right now while it's on our mind. I think for the, no, that's not one of the
Thank you
things
so
she left
much.
for me. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's not much transportation.
No, that's not one of them. The other one was athletic committee. So we don't have dates on that one yet.
Okay.
She'll provide that for us, and we'll try to get that set. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Christian?
No.
All right, we'll move on then. I'll recognize Ms. Shedden. She's our Tennessee Legislative Network representative.
So you have to come way down. Good evening. On Monday, February 18th, several members from the board, along with Director Hickson, traveled to Nashville for their annual Day on the Hill, sponsored by the Tennessee School Board Association. This is an annual event, and it gives board members across our state an opportunity to network with each other, talk about issues that they're facing in their own respective districts. And on the following Tuesday morning, we actually go over and meet with our legislators and talk to them about issues that are important to us in Hawkins County. We met on Tuesday morning. We heard from Lieutenant Governor and Speaker of the Senate, Randy McNally. We heard from Speaker of the House of Representatives, Glenn Cassida. And we were also introduced to our new Commissioner of Education, Penny Schwinn. And she gave us a brief overview of her background and some of the objectives that she hopes to accomplish here in Tennessee. I think right now she's busy traveling the state, meeting with districts, meeting with teachers, principals, superintendents, so she has a busy time ahead of her. We also talk about the 2019 legislative agenda that is put out by Tennessee School Board Association. And the agenda has several items, and they're not numerous, so I'm going to read them off. These are the objectives that our state association is working on for us. TSBA believes that local boards of education are the best equipped and informed to make decisions to address the needs and challenges of their local schools. TSBA opposes any efforts to diminish or impede upon this local control. TSBA opposes any legislation or other similar effort to create a voucher program in Tennessee that would divert money intended for public education to private schools or organizations. TSBA urges the General Assembly to lower the basic education program nurse-pupil ratio to 1 nurse for every 700 students to help meet the needs of students across Tennessee. TSBA urges the General Assembly to require local funding bodies to match any percentage increase in the instructional component of the BEP when additional funds are provided by the General Assembly. TSBA urges the Tennessee General Assembly to provide funding for the total number of teachers each individual school is required to employ to meet the student-teacher ratios under state law. TSBA urges the General Assembly to amend the law and require interest earned on a school district's fund balance to be deposited back into the account. TSBA calls on the Tennessee Department of Education to allow school districts to choose the ACT suite of assessments in lieu of end-of-course testing. TSBA urges the General Assembly to allow students to take the ACT National Career Readiness Certificate examination in lieu of retaking the examination required at grade 11. TSBA urges the Tennessee General Assembly and the Tennessee Department of Education to construct assessments designed to inform instructional practice and to provide accountability that would not require an administration period of time in hours greater than 3 hours for 3rd grade, 4 hours for 4th grade, 5 hours for 5th grade, 6 hours for 6th grade, 7 hours for 7th grade, and not to exceed 8 hours for grades 8 through 12 per academic year. TSBA urges the Tennessee General Assembly Senate Education Committee to immediately amend legislation mandating the assignment of a single letter grade to Tennessee schools. TSBA requests that the General Assembly amend the Safe Schools Act of 2018 to include specific funding to pay the annual salary of at least 1 post-trained officer for every school in the state of Tennessee. TSBA urges the Tennessee General Assembly to adopt legislation to help local school boards establish and operate threat assessment teams to support their schools. TSBA requests the state of Tennessee legislature amend TCA section 55-50-302D to exempt honorable discharge military veterans, reservists, and National Guard members from the age requirement of TCA section 55-50-302D. TSBA urges the General Assembly to review current laws and remove old language and statutory requirements that are no longer applicable or beneficial. And finally, TSB urges the Tennessee General Assembly to require that if, after performing the maintenance of effort test on its draft budget, a local school system fails the MOE test, the LEA may request notification of its funding body by the Tennessee Department of Education, Office of Local Finance. Such request may include, but is not limited to, an explanation of maintenance of effort per TCA calculation of amount required to allow the LEA to meet MOE, an explanation of the aforementioned calculations and dates by which the MOE must be met to ensure receipt of all BE funds due the LEA. We also received position statements on what our Tennessee School Board Association is opposing and what they're supporting. And every week we get a weekly update on Friday from TSBA, from our lobbyist, Ben Torres, explaining to us the laws that have been discussed that week, the laws that have passed pertaining to education. And I've shared with board members at your desk, I made a list of acronyms, which are many in education. And sometimes when you're MOE and BEP and LEA, you're thinking, what do all these things stand for? So this is a current list, and I have actually updated it a little bit in my own handwriting at the back and included a couple of federal acronyms and some acronyms that are found in policies that are sent down by our Tennessee State Board of Education. I also printed out for all the board members from the Comptroller's Office, defining Tennessee education, a glossary of education terms. And this is a great little tool, a great resource. It goes over things like IDEA and explains briefly an overview of what that is. It has BEP in here, brief overview of what BEP is, what it stands for, what it does. So hopefully going forward, this information will be helpful. But we appreciate everyone's support in letting us go, and I think it was a very beneficial trip. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions of Ms. Shedden or any of the other board members or Director Hickson who attended the Day on the Hill? Hearing none, we'll move on to Director School Report involving the consent agenda. There are 8 items on tonight's agenda to be approved. At this time, we'll hear a motion to approve. Ms. Christian, I believe, was the first one, and second was Ms. Shedden. Am I right here? Any questions or any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I've got some questions about number 4.
So you'll pull number 4. We're down to 1 through 3 and 5 through 8. Any other items need to be pulled from the consent agenda? Hearing none, if you could please call the roll.
Charles?
Yes.
Christian?
Yes.
Craddock? Yes. Hilton?
Yes.
Hicks?
You say me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, or whatever, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I've got my hearing aids in, Kathy coughed about the same time, so I did 2 things at one time.
Shedden?
I'm sorry.
Yes. Larson?
Yes. All right, I'll recognize Mr. Hicks on item 4.
Just some questions. The REI Model 710638 hard drive, $258.75 each. How many of those are there?
Recognize Mr. Hickson.
Is that 5 of them or 15 of them?
I'm gonna refer to Wayne, do you know that offhand? How many we're looking at for item 4?
It's item 4, number 2.
Number 2, REI model 710638.
That's the hard drive that goes in the bus cameras
Yes.
system.
Do you know how many we're looking at purchasing?
No, I don't know.
Roy,
I wasn't involved
do
with
you
that.
know offhand?
will be, what we'll need is one for each of the buses, and it will be for each of the camera systems.
So just to clarify, Roy, is it specifically for the new buses that are coming, the item above that, item number 1?
Yes.
Okay. So is it fair to say that since we're getting 5 passenger buses, 1 for each,
Right.
and then you mentioned something at the end there, I couldn't hear you.
It was, it'll be 5 for the 5 buses that we ordered.
Okay,
And then in addition to that, there'll be 15 for the 15 camera systems.
which is item number 3.
I think that is a total of, 20.
Which is item number 3, okay.
Yes.
So 5 new units, Mr. Hicks, for those 5 buses, and then it looks like 15 for existing.
So that's 20 of them, right? I'm just trying to get the numbers right. Ooh, that ain't right, guaranteed.
Does the math not work out right?
That's a $5,175. So that's not, I know that's not a part of the 15 cameras because that number comes up to that total. Along with 15 cameras at $3,205 comes up to $48,075, so that number is there. Then there's an additional as I understand it, an additional $10,050 for the installation of the cameras and the removal of those. Is that correct?
You're talking about the installation, roughly $600 per camera, and the
Yeah.
removal of the old cameras at $75.
Yeah, well, if you look, that's on line 3, of course, let me make sure I get my number. 51 cents. I'm just trying to figure this out. Okay. Yeah, if you go to number 3, you got 15 cameras, or 15 camera systems, for 78 passenger buses at $3,205 each, which comes to $48,075.
Correct.
Then it says installation is $595 per camera, removal of old camera $75, so that's an additional $10,050, right?
Roughly speaking, you were correct.
So all of that comes to, you got almost 400,000,
For the bus purchase you're talking now, $399.
yeah, plus, another $70,000 on top of that. Is that correct? 10, 58, that'll be 58, yeah, it'd be 60, almost $64,000 more dollars. I was just trying to get a total for all of it, because, so I understand.
If it would help Mr. Hicks from this point forward, if there's an item that needs to be broken out or a per cost unit, we'll do a better job of giving you a total of labor and parts that also can be added to that grand total.
Well, I'm just going by what was actually on here, just
Right.
so I'd understand clearly, because, I wanted to know how many if that was 5 of those hard drives, or as it turns out, it's 20. That would have been my interpretation, that it would have been 5 rather than 20, so that gives me a better feel of how much dollars. That's
Okay.
Would you like to make a motion to approve?
not really what you can. I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for the approval of item 4.
I'll second.
Mr. Christian has a question, I believe.
Are we getting anything for the old cameras?
I don't know if they surplus the old cameras or not.
I mean,
I
we're
would
paying
think-
$75 to remove a camera?
If it's the existing system that's in it, that has to be replaced.
Well, it just says removal of old cameras is $75 per camera.
yeah, and that was another thing, if these are the camera systems that's going in the new 5 buses, I mean, do they come already with those new 5 buses, do they already have all the camera systems in them? And these cameras are going in existing buses? That is another question.
The only thing that's called out is the REI model hard drives at roughly $300 a piece, for those 5 buses. Roy, do you know if the buses come pre-wired for that, and then we're buying the equipment that gets plugged in per se for those camera units on the new buses? It says, it just mentions the hard drives for each of those 5 buses, so I guess the question is, do we have to go through the entire bus with this contractor and wire it from head to toe with the bus, or is there pre-wiring and then we're buying the pieces for that camera
Yeah.
system?
It is pre-wired for us to put that in.
And then when we go to,
They will be installed when we get them.
okay, and then when we surplus the bus, I think the question was, is it, when we surplus the bus, do we pay that $75 that it talks about under item 3? Is that, $75 for removal of old cameras from the buses we're then surplusing only, or is it for removal of outdated equipment on existing buses as well?
It's removal of outdated equipment on existing buses to replace with new cameras.
Gotcha.
The 15 camera systems for 78 passenger buses, is that the 5 new buses or is this existing buses?
That is going to be for buses that we currently already have that we can put
Okay,
cameras on.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yes.
So part of the problem that I've talked to Roy about is obviously they're recording nonstop when those buses are in motion, and rightfully so. We use that for security purposes. The equipment is updated, just like any other technology piece that we have in the district. And there aren't a lot of companies that service that specific of equipment that gets put in buses, because it's gotta be relatively shockproof, it's gotta be able to withstand stop procedures and all that stuff, so, it does seem like a lot of money, but it is a necessity at this point.
Well, I guess I'm like Chris, and I was gonna ask this question, but I didn't think it was relevant until he asked it. So the new buses we buy does not come equipped with cameras in them, right?
Not generally speaking, no. The ones that are listed here, it's my understanding that they're pre-wired for the cameras, but then we need to purchase, because there are companies out there that sell the camera unit and the storage.
That's the point that I'm getting across. So how many cameras out of this packet go into the new 5 new buses?
Just the 5 units, that are listed under number 2 for the hard drive.
Well, I guess the only other concern I have is for the new buses, there won't be any cameras to take out.
No, but we've got 15 old buses that's gonna receive a 15 camera system.
Yeah, but where are the cameras that go into the 5 new buses?
That's because we got a total of 20. That's a whole system, if I'm understanding that. The 5 is the whole system. And the 15 is just the camera.
Correct. On the new bus that comes to us, that's brought here, that we have to have the equipment installed, you're looking at a hard drive for each camera, and then the camera unit themselves. Everything else is wired, but we need to install the equipment.
But this doesn't include the camera in number 2. They've got to come out of this 15 cameras we got up here. They have to, because they're only $258 a piece, these up here are $3,205. If that's the case, we need to buy all those right models there.
We need 20 instead of 15.
Looks to me
Now, what
like
you're-
something, I don't know.
So, Roy, do you know offhand how many buses will be coming out that we're looking at taking the systems out of? Coming out of service this next round?
No, because it's going to depend on what buses need those cameras the most. And that's what those cameras will be going into. And if there's not a camera system already in them, it will not be $75 to remove it, it'll just be an installation.
How many cameras do you need to get our technology on the buses to where you would like to see it?
Now, this was kind of a start toward that, because right now, it's kind of hard to tell exactly how many you're gonna need until we find out exactly what's not working.
May I, Mr. Hinkson, make a suggestion? I would, speaking for myself, I would like to know what our end goal would be, where we need to be as far to this board and let us work backwards from that to set a timeline of what and when we can update these cameras.
So just to clarify, Mr. Christian, if I may, let's say that, sitting down with Roy, he says every single bus that we use now needs to have an updated or a functional surveillance system on bus. So you would like us to put a package together that would bring us up to that goal, assign a budget to it, and then weave that into the budget discussions.
Yes, and then we could do it in stages if we need to, or if it comes, the numbers come in and say, yeah, we can do that, let's get to where we need to be. Let's know where we need to be first, and then work toward that goal. But in the meantime, you've got 5 new buses, they won't be in operation until when?
Well, when they've identified the buses that are coming offline, we've got to do the surplus process for them, and then we've got to, he's got a rotation schedule for the oldest buses coming offline, and then portions of those 5 working into those slots of the oldest coming off the line.
I guess a better question would be, is it necessary to approve these funds now?
So I think the sooner we approve the funds for the actual buses themselves, the better. We can, if you wouldn't mind entertaining the idea of maybe separating this out and approving the purchase of the bus so that we
Okay.
can get started on the big purchase, and then we can work on fleshing out the camera purchase equipment, related equipment.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Seeing that all of this equipment, including the buses, come from the same location, this equipment comes from them too. I'm just confused at why, if they manufacture the bus and they manufacture all this equipment too, why those new buses don't already have it yet.
Well, the only answer I have for that, and Roy can correct me if I'm wrong, but not every entity that purchases buses from Midland or Mid-South, requires surveillance equipment installed. It comes pre-wired, but all the ancillary equipment to support that surveillance system is not pre-installed because it is an extra cost that we see.
But the equipment does come from them.
It does. They have it on hand, but they don't install it on all the buses until the buyer, the end user, requires that at the end user point.
I think his question is, did we order it with it already installed, it rides, ready to operate?
Like a new car.
Yeah.
You order,
Yeah, I mean, why would we not?
Well, the prices you see here are for installation from them, and it is manufactured by them, but again, not every entity requires it, unfortunately, so they don't take those steps necessary prior to order of installing them. But it is a fair question. It is a fair question.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to amend, the motion that we, go ahead and approve the purchase of the buses. And if we can get clarification if they will come, these 5 new buses with all this equipment in them.
Motion is to amend the previous motion to
Wait
limit
on
it just
that.
to number 1, to purchase the buses, and then perhaps next month, perhaps Roy could, and Director Hickson could bring us more information. I'm a little confused about how many buses, like Mr. Christian asked, how many buses do we need to bring up to par? And let's get a figure on that, because that's our goal eventually. So, that's your motion to approve number 1, purchase on buses? Okay? Second. Okay, second by Mr. Christian.
That's my amendment to the motion.
Amendment to the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Thank you. Motion carries. And, did we vote on the other consent agenda?
No.
Yeah, we did.
Did.
Yeah, we voted on, we voted on it.
Okay, all right, that concludes our consent agenda. Brings us down to item B, approval of budget amendments, and there's just one item under that. You have that in your handout, and the amendments are marked accordingly. Any motion to approve on those budget amendments? Ms. Charles makes the motion, and second by Ms. Shedden. Discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Hicks,
Yeah.
Christian,
yes.
Craddock, Hilton.
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Shedden. Yes. Larkin.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to item number C, this is approval of purchases over $5,000. There is 1 through through 8. I'll hear a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion for the approval.
Thank you, Ms. Allen, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Charles, discussion?
Mr. Chairman, number 6, there is no, funding amount on number 6. So how much is that?
Is that in the company information on the registration form? I can't recall. Mr. Higgins, do you remember?
Let me see if I can find that. Dr. Bailey, you wouldn't happen to know that, would you?
We're looking it up.
Okay, all right. I do not see a dollar amount, but if we need to pull that to get that, we can do so. I know that Dr. Harris is looking that up, so if we can get that shortly, we'll get that to you.
Looks like the dates of that particular training event is at the end of the month, so we probably need to go ahead and make a decision on that tonight, I believe. Excessive. Let's, if we can, let's just go ahead and pull number 6 out temporarily. We'll come back and revisit that. So we'll be approving purchases of over 5,000. That's 1 through 8 minus number 6.
I'll amend my motion to approve that.
Thank you. Amended.
My second as well.
Second, Ms. Charles. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Hicks,
Yes.
Christian,
Yes.
Pratt, Elton,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Shelby, Martin.
Yes. You. Motion carries. When you have that information ready, just let us know. We will come back to that.
Thank you. My internet is going a little bit slow here, so it did just pull up. But I'll get back to you.
Okay, moving on our agenda, we're to unfinished business. Does anyone have any unfinished business that we need to address? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, and I'll recognize Director Hickson, please.
Well, thank you. We do have one item that does need to be discussed, and that is unfortunately the options for making up some of our stockpile days, otherwise known as snow days. We haven't seen much snow, at least I have not, but we unfortunately have seen lots of rain, and it has resulted in us going above our stockpile days. As you know, we have 11 set aside for inclement weather purposes and then 2 for staff development purposes. We've used one of those staff developments days earlier this year. We did have a chance to talk to the principals last week, a week ago Friday, and got to go over these options with them. We've developed some options that would assist in making up the days. Before I begin, I did have a conversation via email with Paul Rainwater before I left for the meeting here this evening. Greg Sturgill and I feel like he is very open, the Department of Education is very open to granting us some days, but he wanted to know specifically how many we were over our allotted stockpile days. We are currently 3 over. So minimally, I think we will be granted a waiver for those 3 days. With that being said, that would break us even and would not give us any cushion for the rest of the year. In talking with several of you on the phone this week, I think that it would be a wise decision if you were to entertain these options here that the principals have identified as the most feasible to make up, specifically being item number 2, the May 22nd, 2019 in-service day. If we could make that a student day and then figure out 2 half-days to bring the teachers back in to help them make up their professional development day, we would gain a day there. And the item 4, 30 minutes to 13 regular school days, if we started that process, worst case, if we needed to make up multiple days, we have enough days starting the week of the week following spring break to make up 3 days between there and the end of the year. We don't possibly need all 3 days, but we do have that option. So I'm asking you to consider, based on the site administrator input, item number 2 and item number 4. The only other thing that I would add on number 4 is our secondary principals did request that we split that 30 minutes and not just simply add it to the end of the day, but maybe consider 15 minutes at the start and 15 minutes after, which would be more amenable to those in sports and parent drop-off and pickup and transportation as well. It doesn't affect them like it does at one portion of the day, a whole 30 minutes.
So you're saying, asking the board to approve items 2 and 4 simultaneously?
Correct, with the idea that we do get a waiver and we don't need to enact either one, but we do have the flexibility if we have board approval to do so.
We're not out of the woods yet on whether it's
Not yet.
partly.
I was really hoping to have an answer for you this evening, but they have been very responsive and they are likely getting a lot of requests from school systems around the state.
Hopefully with the governor declaring a state of emergency in the state, that they will be sympathetic with our situation out here.
Haven't they kind of, in the past, kind of given us 3 days before?
Have we had a state?
I think they have. I think we've got 3 days before, since I've been on the board.
I think Mr. Hicks is correct. There was a point in time, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where we were, it looks like, granted 3 days. But the letter, the correspondence I got back from Mr. Rainwater today specifically asked for an amended letter identifying the number of days we were over the stockpile currently. So we had requested 6. We've encouraged 6 non-school days because of the flooding. I did initially ask for all 6. It looks like they've come back and they wanted to know the amount of days over the stockpile. So now it's gone from 6 to 3, I believe. And I believe that probably is our worst case scenario, that we'll get a break-even point where we're not having to enact either of these options.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the recommendations under making ends
Mr. Chairman, I
notice?
so moved.
And that would be for 2 and 4 options?
1 and 3 is basically at their mercy anyway, correct? Good Friday or the day before graduation or whatever, that would kind of be your decision anyway.
Correct, yes, and the reason that I wanted to bring it up for discussion is we want to do options, and you are correct. However, we want to do options that impact our staff as less as possible, so.
I know when the calendar committee was meeting, it seemed like Good Friday was terrible, and adding another day and graduation, everybody already made plans for vacations, and it was almost off limits is what they were saying.
What's a vacation? Give me a definition.
We've got a motion and a second, motion by Mr. Hicks and a second by Ms. Bradley. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please let it be known, saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Thank you, motion carries. Before we adjourn, I got a couple matters here. First, board retreat starts tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in this particular room, and I think lunch is being provided, so I would like to have some idea of how much time we're talking about. I know Mr. Christian has an engagement after lunch, and do you have any idea what we could anticipate? 3:30?
I have a full day of agenda, but it largely depends on the discussion allotted to each item. My goal, Mr. Christian, for your benefit, since you have an engagement in the afternoon, would be to end not too long after lunch.
Okay. Let's just make a plan that we go no further than 3 o'clock then.
Sounds good.
And we'll pick up at a later date. We have a request for a preliminary budget workshop, Ms. Farmer. March the 28th, we had a previous correspondence on the 26th, and that seemed to be a conflict, but the new date is 3/28. Can everyone check their calendars? March 28th for our first budget workshop. March 28th, that's 6 p.m. too, unless somebody wants to do it sooner. Okay, I'm good. Good. Mr. Charles?
Good.
Good. Ms. Heller? Everybody says they're good, so Mr. Hicks, you good?
As far as I know.
Okay, March 28th at 6 o'clock in this room. our first budget workshop. Ms. Barber, what will we be looking at that particular point? Will you have recommendations from all the departments on requests and everything at that stage, or?
I'm not sure if all departments will have requests in then, because they would be sending those to Mr. Hickson, but likely,
We're making good progress on that.
Okay, okay.
so we'll try to get some of the preliminary things out of the way. We may not know, health insurance increases at that time, we may not know TCRS rates at that time, but, our, schedule that we agreed upon with the county commission says that we have to have our first meeting prior to April 1. So we want to make sure that we meet that schedule and get started, so.
Do you have that schedule? It's pretty important for us to kind of put that timeline down. Do you have that in front of you right
I
now?
do not.
Okay.
I know Jennifer does, I can have her send it
Can
out.
you send that
I
out
have
to
it, I
us?
just don't have it in front of me right now, but.
It seems like those are very timely. All right, March
You want-
28th.
You want me to email that out to you all?
Yes,
the
please.
schedule? Okay.
March 28th, 6 o'clock, budget workshop here. We have a request. It's Friday. We have a request for an athletic committee meeting. We have two possible dates, April 1st or April 11th. It's a pretty big matter. Everybody may want to participate in this one, but we do have specific members of the athletic committee. April 1st or April 11th? Good for. April 1st is a Monday, April 11th is a Thursday.
The afternoon meeting.
I would assume. Ms. Dixon?
Most likely, yes. If we can get a date, we'll get a time nailed down that works for everybody, but the big thing is to get a hold on the date.
Is it better to go earlier than 6 o'clock and not keep everybody else awake? Ms. Trent, can you make it here about, can you make it by 5? Everybody go for 5? Can you make it home?
What was the date?
First or 11th? Monday or Thursday?
I mean, any
April
part.
Fool's Day.
I think volume, you can't even have conflict, so that's more.
Yeah, I was gonna be before that morning.
I thought you did.
I told you I was being, just taking a little while.
Okay, somebody throw a date out there, it's the 1st and the 11th.
First, I'd 6.
Can we do it 5?
What day?
5.
April 1st, 5 o'clock.
I've got a serious issue.
Athletic committee. Catch what this pertains to, or
Station?
I do have, rumor is there's some work underway to possibly identify some possible fundraisers for church. So that's gonna be a pretty big discussion, that's a huge financial burden, so it would be very, as Mr. Larkins stated earlier, it would be good if we got the majority of you here, at least if at all possible, to have that discussion.
Let me read off to you the members of the athletic committee. Chris Christian, Holly Dalton, Wes Smith, myself, Katie Hicks, Jackie Charles. Those are the ones that are necessary to be here. But since this is a big ticket item, we'd like to have everybody's input. If you can make it, we'd like to have your presence. Thank you. We have that set now for April 1st at 5 o'clock, trying to get it in a little bit earlier than time will have changed. Right. Get Mr. Hickson home earlier. Okay, that's the three things I had, and,
I do have a dollar amount on item 6, if you'd like to go back to that.
okay, we haven't adjourned yet, so let's go back to 6. Purchases over $5,000, registration for teacher hard out for 2 teachers.
I don't have it broken down, but I have a total. This includes hotel registration and food for all participants, $1,698. And I apologize, from this point forward, I will, Mr. Hicks, as mentioned earlier, I'll try to get that, those items broken out a little more clearly, and then make sure that the dollar amounts for the entire trip.
Just some supporting information, Dr. Bailey, I think you and I had talked about this prior to Director Hickson's arrival on this particular training. Michelle maybe, and we talked about was it necessary to send them to Atlanta, could we do this regionally? And was this not the training that we said?
We were talking about, the Ron Clark Academy where we go, and,
That was another academy?
yes, that's.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I did speak to Beth, I believe. I think the case is, when we look at out-of-state travel, we look for options that are in-state, and this particular training was not offered regionally.
Okay.
But if you have questions regarding the purpose of the training, I can get more information.
All right, do we have a motion to approve item number 6?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Shedden, second, and Mr. Hicks made the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving registration for Teacher Heart Out for 2 teachers at Morrisburg Elementary for $1,698, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Thank you, motion carries. I don't have anything else, ladies and gentlemen, on my agenda. Anything else? Set a record, we are adjourned,
They must have ate a lot and now they want to take a nap.
Hopefully I'll come out and be tired.